morning after the night before.
Yeah.
So we're recording live from Newcastle this week.
At 20 past 8 in the morning.
20 past 8 on a Sunday morning.
And what are we drinking?
Coffee.
Tea.
Yeah, well, it's that's probably maybe next week's poll. Tea or coffee. it's about all I can muster after last night. Yes, we're here in Newcastle because we're here literally the morning after the Crimbo Crawl, which was an epic day of the pub crawling around Newcastle.
It was excellent.
Any particular standout highlights?
The first two places, Wylam and the Free Trade Inn.
Yeah.
The Wylam, just because it's a spectacular building in the middle of the park, and so the space has been used so well. And the Free Trade Inn, which if you look at the Free Trade Inn without taking a look behind you, is just a corner, pub on a corner.
Yeah.
Turn around and you've got a spectacular view of Newcastle overlooking it with the Tyne in the middle.
The most amazing views of Newcastle from that pub.
Yeah.
And I should probably say as well, we've got a guest with us this week. So Clayton at Clayfish, welcome to the well-oiled machine, as you called it before we started recording.
G'day all.
So, particular highlights for you, Clayton, from yesterday?
Pretty much everything before it got blurry.
So before 4 o'clock.
Which was roughly anything before 5 o'clock. From there on in, we were maybe struggling.
No, I must say the Wylam Brewery location, the tour, the tasting, the free trade, and just getting about in Newcastle for the first time.
Yeah, I've got to agree with both what you said. The Wylam, the start of the day at Wylam Brewery was just absolutely stunning. Visually, just an incredible building, and the way they've kind of built the brewery to fit the building as well, and they've got this wonderful event space there also, and just the hospitality that was shown as well. So firstly, massive thanks to Myles and Gary for sorting out the Crimbo Crawl this year.
Second that.
But also massive thanks to Dave from Wylam, who took us round, showed us around the brewery, and gave us a little personal tasting as well of 4 of their beers, which was...
Yeah, no, and it's it put me in mind of a slightly smaller, more compact version of Stone in Berlin.
Okay.
With the use of the space.
Yeah.
Although what I would say Wylam has is a spectacularly better view, because where Stone Berlin was an old gas work, so they weren't really worried about the view. But with this one being in the middle of the exhibition park.
It's a little way out of town.
It is.
So if you come into Newcastle, I would suggest that's where you start.
Taxi from the station straight there.
And then work your way back.
We didn't try the food, but it looked good.
It did.
Charcuterie and cheese balls looked really nice.
What I saw going past me was eminently eatable.
And warm as well. A massive roaring log fire in the main bar area.
It's like a furnace.
which had us all removing our jumpers rapidly the minute we walked in there. So yeah, great time in Newcastle. Any standout beers that you were able to remember so soon after?
Almasty Imperial Stout that we had at the Free Trade Inn.
Yeah.
Was this very much a standout beer.
Probably one of the last ones that I actually remember.
Well, the 11% might have had hand in that.
And that was only stop 2, wasn't it?
That was only stop 2, yeah.
As well. I remember there being what tasted like a fresher than fresh Axe Edge at some point towards the end of the evening.
Oh, it was after Bacchus, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Hold on a sec. I did actually write all this down.
In Beer X.
That was on. Where they're playing some Thompson Twins.
Yeah, which we then decided we wanted to do an 80s thing.
We? Do you mean you?
I decided I needed 80s music. So then we randomly went to some Belgian bar.
Which did put on 80s music. I decided to explain to them what 80s music was.
Yeah, because then we basically demanded that they played 80s music, and that was the only reason they got us to stay.
Yeah.
But no, great evening. Really enjoyed having a beer around Newcastle, and again, massive thanks to Myles and Gary for sorting that out. So... start off with a little bit of news this week. I'm not going to go too overboard because the focus of the show is going to be very much around the second part of our trilogy of Golden Pints for this year. So some quick news that landed last week. Goose Island are going to be rolling out some brew pubs, starting in Balham in South London-ish. Doing really well here this morning.
Can't tell this is the morning after.
No, not at all. So it's going to open in 2017. News broke about that last week, and quite a few people got their underwear and a bit of a twist over it. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
I presume this is all their stepping stones. They've did the Goose Island roll. They did the Bourbon County Stout rollout. They've obviously been thinking about it, and they've always done a lot of their stuff exclusively through Captain Craft. So this is just a next logical step, I guess, for them.
I think thinking back, they actually told us this when we recorded, didn't they?
Yes, but
we had to take it out. Yeah, we were asked to remove it. So
just because they didn't have the, I think there was a couple of weeks delay, wasn't there? So it wouldn't be ready to put the news out.
And just the other bit of news this week, Brewdog announced their home Brewdog winner, which is a fella called Tom Doyle, who's from Dublin, and he's brewed a 7% beer called Tropic Fun. Words today are just really, really difficult, honestly. It's a 7% stout that he's brewed. So Brewdog now putting that into production across their bars, I believe.
That must look quite good though when you've won that sort of competition. You go into a Brewdog bar and see your beer there.
Yeah, I suppose it's similar to the one that Thornbridge do with Waitrose.
Yeah.
That must be a great moment to walk into Waitrose and see your beer on the shelf.
Yeah, so it's a good prize.
Yeah,
good prize, and some of the winners have gone on to bigger and better things.
Yes,
Like our friend Andy Parker.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people that have won homebrew competitions. Yeah, I mean, like you say, look at Andy. He's now full-time professional brewer.
It's probably the proof they need, isn't it? That's the thing. It's affirmation and confirmation that you're actually pretty good at this shit.
Other people like my beer too.
Yeah.
People are willing to pay for it.
There you go. Job done. Yeah. Okay, so shall we get on to the first part of the show this week, which is the Hopinions poll, which was about train beers.
Yep.
Hopinions, 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 Hopinions.
So last week we asked train beers, where's the best place to get them? 184 votes this week. 48% of people going for M&S. 41% of people are bringing them from home. 8% of people still voting for this is a random category tick here.
So they're now just doing it to annoy you.
Oh no! So 8% of people voted for what's a train beer, and then 3% went for specials on train, which I'm not surprised about because most specials on trains that I've tried are pretty bad.
I'll leave it off for a second because that'll be part of what I want to say.
So, and I know obviously we are large advocates of the train beer.
Yeah.
We certainly were yesterday.
There were train beers consumed on the way up here.
We enjoyed a few. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Do you want to have a pop first, Clay?
Oh, thank you.
As guest?
Yeah.
Well,
A moment of politeness there for me.
I'm at a disadvantage. You guys have got screeds of sheets of paper. I've got a cup of tea.
Tell everybody.
I'm sure you can edit
This
that out.
is supposed to just. It sounds like it's natural.
Right.
Not inviting him again.
No.
Yeah. I'm a bad
Put
guest.
him on the blacklist.
No, well, mainly M&S was probably what I voted for, unless I voted for the third category just to wind up Steve.
I actually think you voted for Bring From Home, didn't you?
No,
Actually, I've got your exact comment
Got
here.
your comment,
yeah.
If unplanned train beers, then oh, fuck.
So what Clayfish said,
Yeah.
if unplanned, train beers, then M&S. Otherwise, Bring From Home, usually for longer journeys, i.e. on the way to Crimbo Crawl.
okay.
So did you bring yours from home yesterday then?
Yes. Yeah, I brought them from home because I knew what I'd be having, and I knew that they would be there. There's no last minute rush to try and get something. The train beers I get at M&S are usually more impromptu. The end of a night out, hard day at work. M&S is at Liverpool Street in several locations, and you can just pop in, pick one up, get a tinny on the way home. But yeah, if I'm going further afield, I'll usually bring from home, because then I'm perfectly aware of my selection and what it's going to do for me.
I think that's a lot of people were leaning towards that.
I'm fairly much with Clay on that one. That's what I would do if I knew I was going to be at like the Crimbo Crawl, or when we went up to Leeds, Birmingham,
Manchester.
Indy, man, yeah. Then you know you're going to be on the train for at least 2 hours. Try to remember to bring beers with me.
Yeah.
I probably won't go for massively challenging beers.
No, and I think again yesterday we probably all saw that, didn't we? In terms of the beers that we were drinking were fairly easy beers.
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing a tasting session, so to speak. It's more
Well, we did have these grand plans of recording this podcast on the train yesterday, didn't we? But we realised very quickly that that just wasn't going to happen, largely because somebody was taking over all the table with their bags.
There wasn't much foot room either, was there?
No, and there was hardly any leg room as well. So it was quite difficult. I think mostly because we were probably worried that everybody would be looking at us going, "What the fuck are these idiots doing?"
Yeah, we would all sound like we were on a mobile phone.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think let's have a look at some of the views from some of the people who got involved last week. So the Ale Trail, Gary from the Ale Trail. If travelling from London back up north, I always try to pop into Sourced Market in St Pancras.
He gets paid too much.
It's but if that's kind of your, I suppose, if you're going through there, mind you, there is an M&S in.
Oh yeah, the M&S. To be fair to Gary, the M&S at St Pancras doesn't have a great range from the fridge.
No, I always like to pop my head into Sourced and see what's going on, and they've recently expanded it now, haven't they?
Pricey.
Yeah, they've got taps and everything there now.
Yeah.
So, Luke McGlynn, M&S, exclamation mark. Why spend tons on beer on trains when beers for trains, beers can be cheap? That's not me struggling with my words again. That's exactly what Luke wrote.
To be fair, he did say, "Hope you get what I mean."
Yeah. But there was a lot of love for M&S. So Janice Dunn at Mrs. Beer Snob, Mark at Million Bevs, and David Turner at the Beer Bits, all speaking about getting beers from M&S. More for convenience and probably range as well. James at Gammon Baron, home drinking perfectly chilled beer since 2012. No bottle opener required, which is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Has the onset of canned beer made train beers more accessible?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. My preferred option for M&S for the impromptu beer would have been their version of Citra.
Yeah.
But downside of that was it's a bottle, and while I'd normally have a bottle opener somewhere in my person, it's not guaranteed, and it was a pint.
Yeah, but now they're with their range of cans, and they've got a really good range of cans.
Yes,
there.
even in the railway stations.
Yeah,
especially in their railway stations.
Yeah.
So I think the cans have helped, and they're more portable, as we've mentioned plenty of times before. They're just much easier.
Yeah.
You're not weighing yourself down. They fit into bags easier.
Yeah.
Cool bag will hold between 4 and 6.
There's no bother with having to pour it into a glass if it's a bottle conditioned beer.
It's a good shout.
Yeah, good shout.
And you're not guaranteed a table unless you've booked one on but then that comes back to the longer journey thing of bringing things from home.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you know you're on a longer journey, you generally, if travelling quite a lot on trains up and down the country, I always book a table, just because I normally like to have a little bit of space at the table, and I find being stuck in a chair quite restrictive.
We're never travelling with Steve again. It's not having a kid there.
Just the final comment was from Nate Southwards at Nate Dog. Surely wherever is convenient, really. So, and that's a good shout as well, because there's been a few times when I've certainly been in Leeds where I've actually gone to Little Leeds Beer House and I've bought something from in there, or I've got my little flagon filled up in there and I've taken that on the train with me as well. So it's nice to be in places where you've got options.
Yeah. And again, if it was Waitrose instead of I bought a drink from Little Waitrose at King's Cross yesterday because I couldn't see an M&S. So M&S at Liverpool Street, just because it works.
Yeah.
Or if you go for Chelmsford, there's one there as well, right beside the station.
Yeah.
So yeah, the convenient comment would work as well. I'm not going to walk far.
I've got to say, I love going into M&S these days and seeing Northern Monk's New World IPA on the shelves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's almost become the one that I search out now.
As a going home beer,
Yeah.
that's become my go-to.
Yeah.
I'd probably be the full pure session IPA. But again, it's the similar sort of thing. I know exactly what I'm going to get. It's always consistent.
Something
You
nice
guys-
and easy.
You guys
Yeah.
are going for that. Again, you're not going to sit there writing copious rate beer trade, tasting notes on it on the train, are you?
No, that's true. Which probably gives us quite a nice segue into the next part of the Golden Pints, because we obviously did our first part last week where we were looking at our beers of the year. And this week we're going to look at a few more categories, and we've actually introduced a new category.
We have.
Which is Train Beer of the Year, which kind of fits nicely into the discussion that we've just had. So, do you want to go first on
well,
yours?
I think I've given a bit of a hint. I've got probably two. One is the Session IPA, because almost without fail, M&S at the train station seem to have that one. So easy to pick up. I like full pure beers. But what I would say is, in answer to the other one, that's train specials. Don't often see train specials, but our intercity trains from Liverpool Street to Norwich, stopping at Colchester, has a little bar, and Adnams Ghost Ship. And as that was my cask beer of the year as well,
Yeah,
it does come out pretty nicely out of cans. And for a period of time, they were doing 2 for a £5.
that's everyone's winning there, aren't
Yeah, and I never needed 2,
they? Yeah,
but I always bought 2 and they were 2 for a £5. I couldn't help myself. So I wake up in the morning and find there's a can in the fridge.
Yeah.
Oh, there was 2 for a £5 yesterday then, obviously. So on the train, if I do get on an in-city train and I'm confident about the bar, then I probably won't pick up a beer. I'll just get a Ghost Ship from the bar.
yeah. Just in terms of you saying about trains on beers on trains. I tell you what, I'm not editing this week. I want people to hear this in its rawest form. This is the state that I'm in after I've been out for a night. The trains, the Virgin trains, the one on the East Coast line has a beer that's produced for them by Rudgate called Hop on Board, which is a fairly standard English bitter. But on their West Coast line, it's Red Willow produced the beer for Virgin Trains, and that is an absolute stunner. Its name escapes me now, but the fact that it's produced by Red Willow is great, because it means that Virgin are approaching what's still a relatively small brewery.
Give them good exposure.
Yeah. So what was your train beer of the year? Was it Ghost Ship?
I'm probably going to go with Ghost Ship, because it was quite a good fun evening when you, me and Half Pint Jet were standing at the bar drinking it.
That was after the night that we cleaned spoons out of resin first, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention that. But yes, that was the same evening.
Was that after the podcast that we recorded, or had we been somewhere?
I think we'd been somewhere. I don't think it was after the podcast.
No, it wasn't, was it?
Because we did the podcast in Brewdog because there was
Yeah.
problems on the trains. So we were just lucky, we were just happy to get back on the train again.
Okay.
But we had been somewhere.
Yeah.
It escapes me where though at the moment, which isn't a shock.
I'm sure it'll come back to us. Clayton, train beer of the year.
I just said it before. Northern Monk New World IPA does
Yeah.
the job for me.
It's a good shout.
It's a very good shout, and the fact that Northern Monk have got their beers in M&S now as well.
In quite a short space of time.
Yeah.
It's tasty. It's convenient.
And most of all, it's in a lovely little green can. Yeah. And as we all know, green cans are the best. I'm going to go with Clayton actually on this one, and I'm going to have to agree. It's New World IPA for me. It's a beer that if I see it in the fridge in M&S, I'll grab. If not, and probably an honourable mention here, would go to the M&S own Mosaic Pale Ale, which is produced for them by Adnams.
Yeah.
Comes in a nice 40ml can, so it's a little bit bigger as well, for those slightly longer journeys, or when you know there's going to be a delay. You can have a bit more of a beer. So, but I think on the whole, the availability of beers in supermarkets, particularly chain beers now, is just leaps in front of where it was last year.
The little Waitrose where I popped in to get some food yesterday had an excellent range of beers for a very small shop.
Yeah.
Both refrigerated and just on the shelves. I mean, I could have picked up a bottle of the Fuller's 2016 Vintage Ale, and that would have been a good.
That would have been a hell of a chain beer. That would have been like snobbery to the next level.
Yeah,
wouldn't
exactly.
It? You could have gone and sat in first class on your own with that.
I almost said the C word there for a minute. As well.
Okay, so while we're talking supermarkets, then let's go on to our next category, which is supermarket of the year.
Oh, is there only going to be any surprises here? I wonder.
I'm guessing not how we've all just been speaking.
M&S.
Yeah.
It starts with an M, ends with an S, and it's got an ampersand.
Okay, so let's not go on about that one too much.
I think we've
already explained. So M&S, I think just their ever expanding range for me is what does it, and also the fact that they seem to be embracing working with local breweries as well to get their beers into their shops, which is great.
I've got to say that I popped in at my lunchtime this week just to pick up like a couple of tinnies for the journey, and such as their range, I walked out 28 quid lighter.
Expensive train journey. It's almost the price of the train ticket.
Yeah, goodness.
The 4 cans kind of expanded.
I suppose if you go to one of the bigger, the full range in the supermarket, we focus very much on the train station shops.
Yeah,
but the full range at the big supermarkets is fantastic.
Yeah,
it is. Especially if you find one of those big food, the M&S food shops.
They got to start doing baskets and put trolleys in because the arms get really sore.
Yeah. I suppose we could just buy less. Oh, stupid.
How do you even suggest that? So M&S there taking supermarket of the year. Next one we're going to look at is a branding, pump clip or label. So kind of lumping all three of these into one. Clayton?
Well, tried and tested formula. Magic Rock and Beavertown are still doing it for me, but we're really used to their core range. But what they've put out on their specials is just taking it. I mean, taking it to a new level. That the new tall cans from Magic Rock has just given them some real estate that they're really, really using. And the Hypnotist and Waniac are just brilliant.
Yeah. It's interesting actually because when I popped to Magic Rock tap room last week, it's expanded. It's that they seem to be putting bits on every part of the brewery at the moment, and so you can see where they're growing. And they've now got 2 massive FVs outside as well, where they're storing a lot of their beers. So
one of them wasn't Cannonball, was it, Steve? You didn't go and lie underneath a very large FV with green on it.
No, I had to be pulled off to the side by the security. I was trying to get in the top. I was going to work my way down.
Drowned and
but no, I mean, I've got to agree with what you say there. Mate. I mean, I was going to go for Magic Rock again. I think that's probably the 3rd year in the row now that I've gone for Magic Rock's branding. But the thing that did it for me was that kind of new branding that they put on those big cans.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of just taken their branding to a new level in terms of what they can produce. And obviously now they've got more space on the cans, they can produce more of their...
bigger and bolder, it's not as intricate, it's really eye-catching.
Yeah, but very much an honourable mention for Beavertown's Lupoloid, which has, I think, redefined what a can can look like.
I was going to give that one a shout out. I mean, the pinkish purple can with the green top.
I mean, in a world where, if we go back to the supermarket thing, if you're walking into supermarkets or into independent beer shops now, you're presented with a hell of a range now to choose from. And if you're new going into that environment, that can be quite a challenge. But so you're going to be looking for those beers that stand out, and things like Beavertown, Lupoloid literally jumps off the shelf for you. Their entire core range, the Magic Rock beers as well. Northern Monk to a certain extent are now, their branding's very, very simple.
Their specials.
Just changing the colours. I mean, the Patrons Project with the wrap-off label now. I mean, just using that space in a quite inventive way.
Well, it is the whole 360 degrees though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unlike a bottle label. I mean, Beavertown and Magic Rock would be what I would have said anyway. So I can't go much further than those two. But what I'd say is, would say about the label, I'd still say that the Colonel bottle still stands out because of the label.
Yeah.
Just that brown label says the beer, says the percentage, and then you spend the next 20 minutes trying to find it on Untapped. Because it's slightly different to the last time.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. So what about next category we're going to look at is the Simon Johnson Award for the Best Beer Twitterer. I'm going to jump straight in with this one, first of all. I'm maybe slightly controversial here. I'm going for Rob Derbyshire from Hopzine, who does weekly periscopes that stream through Twitter. Very, very engaging if you get involved in one of them. He basically drinks a couple of the week's big releases, chats about them, and gets you chatting to him about what you're drinking as well. And I really enjoy that. I really enjoy that use of something else to stream into Twitter.
No, that's a good shout.
That you can use and you can access. So that would be my shout on that one.
Okay, for me, I'm going to give a shout out to a previous Prizeless Prize winner, Sparky Wright. He just makes me laugh with his tweets every now and again. and a lot of the time they're not connected to beer at all, they just make me laugh.
Yeah, they're just random, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for Carl Marshall, at the bearded one.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, good shout.
Yeah, I really like his range of tweets. He's a brewer. He's in the industry. He tweets about his daily life in a brewery. Also, he's got an understanding of the business that he's in, and he wants to know more. And so he asks some quite pointed questions sometimes.
Yeah.
And he's got pictures of rabbits. And surely we all look for the calendar photos each month, don't we?
That's a good shout, actually. Yeah. I didn't really think about that. I mean, the other one that I do want to mention, because I think it deserves a mention, because it's something that's just going from strength to strength, is Craft Beer Hour, which just continues to be really, really engaging every week, and it's great to see people.
We can see the success from it because other people do other ones now at different times of the week, different times of the day.
Yeah.
So and Tom's a lovely bloke.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd like to see that go from strength to strength as well. So next up, best beer blog or website.
I'll give a shout out here definitely for Mark Johnson. I do like his posts.
Agreed.
They can be very, very cutting at times. He doesn't take no prisoners, friend or foe alike. Will come in for it if he's got an opinion about it. And I like him for that. And having met him now at Indie Man this year, lovely chap as well.
And who would forget Fish Mosaic?
Exactly. We've all got a picture of the Fish Mosaic because Mark Johnson told us to do it.
And everybody did it because he said you have to do it.
Yeah. It was almost like a queue, like you see at King's Cross for people having their picture taken at platform 9 3/4.
I think it's still my profile picture.
It is.
What about you, mate?
I'm going to go for a less kind of personal ranty thing. Well, personal ranty things. Peter McCary's incisive comments pretty good, but I'd just like the general mix of information and investigation from Boak and Bailey.
Okay, that's a good show.
Yeah, it's nice. Sorry, words have gone again.
Yeah, no,
those pigeons on the windowsill are really,
that's cool. Really
staring me out.
Literally, we've got pigeons looking at us that want to be involved in this podcast. They do look quite angry as well. I'm gonna, very much echo Mark Johnson. Do enjoy reading his stuff, and like you say, he takes no prisoners. If he's got a view on something, he's going to share it.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be afraid of that. But for me, just because of the sheer to the point writing, and again, somebody that literally takes no prisoners, Pete McCary for me.
Have we mentioned him before?
I don't think it's the first time.
Oh, that's all right then.
That Pete's been mentioned. Yeah.
First time we've mentioned him today.
Probably that probably comes as no great surprise to Pete. to be fair, the amount of times he's been mentioned recently. But for me, I suppose what I look for in a blog is something that pulls me in straight away, engages me throughout. Most of all, is very quick and easy to read. And
it does tick those boxes.
Pete's writing does exactly that for me. So, congrats there to Pete for winning that one. And of course, these are virtual prizes. There's nothing other than the adulation of our millions of listeners for these. So the last one for this week, and again, it's another new category because I felt as though it was something in 2016. Beer podcasts have gone from strength to strength.
Yeah.
So we've literally seen the point at the beginning of the year where we were one of probably 2 or 3 people that were podcasting regularly, and we're now easily up into double figures in terms of the amount of beer podcasts that there are. So I thought, as podcasters, we should recognise the great work that others do in this area. So I'm going to come straight in with this one. I've loved a lot of people's stuff this year. Really enjoyed Michael Lally's podcasts when he first started producing them. He's got a really nice way of questioning and getting information out of people as well, which I really enjoyed.
And at the time it was long form interviews weren't really being done.
He was the only person doing it.
Yeah,
so
and I did enjoy it. Although he's lived in the UK for quite some time, it was still part of his journey.
Him discovering.
And I really enjoyed his interviewing technique.
And I also enjoyed, massive shout out, I know they're our friends, to Wayne and Janice. I do enjoy listening to the Beer Snobs talking about what's going on in Ireland and reviewing beers, and obviously they've got a very natural chemistry there, which is unsurprising. But for me, and this will come as no surprise to anyone, I'm going with Beernomicon on this, because those guys came out of nowhere. The first couple were a little bit raw, but they've polished it very, very quickly. And their most recent show, where they've gone back in and done a second interview with Paul Jones from Cloudwater, probably their best work to date.
I've still got to listen to it, and the last one I listened to was the one where they did the Big Beery Night Challenge.
And that
was hilarious.
The fact that they got involved in that, I mean, full credit to them.
And it does mean I now want to try Carlsberg Special Brew.
So they've at least done something. Yeah. For me, it's those guys. What about you, mate?
For me, I'll echo all the ones you said. Beernomicon's been great fun to listen to. Love listening to the Irish Beer Snobs. And like you say, a lot of it is the chemistry between them, the banter as well. Wayne maybe getting told off a couple of times during each episode.
I did enjoy the most recent one, and I said this to Wayne as well. I was like, mate, you just sounded so bored for the whole episode. And he replied, and he was like, yeah, it was on the back of Man United getting beat. I wasn't happy.
And there's always a few good Janice quotes in there as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And Michael Lally, like I said, I really enjoyed the long form interview, and the people he was speaking to in London was really interesting. But for me, it's Stephen Rowland's Beer Podcast.
Oh, good shout. Yeah.
I've been listening to them for quite some time now, and they've really helped my beer bods experience, because often I'm not in on a Thursday. So when I do get to listen to their beer blog, their beer podcast, is often when I'll have my beer as well.
Yeah.
So they will accompany my beer drinking on that one. And I do like the banter between the two of them, Stephen Rowland and Gary, when he steps in.
So occasionally when Gary steps in as well.
Yeah. So I really enjoy those. And again, a bit like you were saying about Pete, they're generally 10, 11 minutes only, their podcasts, apart from a couple of times when Steve's been away and Rowland and Gary got carried away with I think they stretched out to 20 minutes. So they're my winner.
Yeah, good shout.
I only listened to one.
You're not allowed to say. You can't come on our podcast and then say that we win the best podcast.
Okay then. Well, there's a barbecue podcast I listen to.
That's it's beer podcast of the year.
No, I have listened to the odd Stephen Rowland. I haven't tried the Beernomicon, but I have enjoyed Wayne and Janice when I listen to them as well. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, so I kind of keep it to this one, the barbecue one, and then dipping out of a couple of others as I win.
Cool. So that kind of wraps up part 2 of our Golden Pints.
Yeah. Building to a finale in the story arc.
Absolutely, yes. I assume many people will compare this wonderful piece of audible art to The Empire Strikes Back in terms of it's been a little bit shit throughout, but very much.
No, Empire Strikes Back is the best of the trilogy.
I hate The Empire Strikes Back. I don't understand anybody that says Empire Strikes Back is amazing.
No, Empire Strikes Back is the best of the
I really don't. But yeah, so we are building towards the final part of the trilogy next week, where we will probably actually drink some beer as well, and maybe sound a little bit more human. But the bits that we'll be covering in the final part of our Golden Pints will be we'll be looking at best UK brewery, best overseas brewery, best new brewery of 2016, best pub or bar, best tap room, beer festival of the year, independent retailer of the year, and online retailer of the year.
Schedule.
So yeah, it's quite a lot in that final episode. But that's coming next week.
Yep.
We'd love to hear people's views on our golden pints from this week and the train beers as well. Just get in touch on Twitter or Facebook. Let us know what either your golden pints are or what your opinion is on the train beers. Who's got the Prizeless Prize this week?
Okay, well, the guy who helped us, who did all the organising with Gary, Myles Lambert, he took a couple of pictures yesterday which ended up on Instagram under the Cheers Guys hashtag, and one of them was at the Wylam Brewery while we were having an excellent tasting. It's worth a look just because I look really grumpy, which I would hasten to add I wasn't. I like to think that's my concentration face.
I think grumpy isn't the right word. I genuinely feel like you're about to leap over the table and smack somebody. It's like somebody has said the most offensive thing ever to you.
I'm going to have a look at this.
So yeah, he gets the Prizeless Prize. He also gets a blog shout out as well.
Okay.
For his train beer blog that he recently posted about his personal experience about it, which I'd recommend anyone to look at because it fairly much echoes what my thinking is about train beers, and wondering whether people are looking at it a little bit odd sometimes. Yeah. Same as I have done in the past when people might crack open a bottle of Bud or something.
Well, to be fair, I'd say we probably got a few looks from the table opposite us yesterday when we started cracking beers at 8:30 in the
Yeah,
morning.
but I reckon the two guys you two swapped with are really glad they swapped.
Yeah, mostly because they had a lot of table space where they swapped to. Okay, so as I say, next week we're going to do the last part of the Golden Pints and a little bit of a wrap up of the year, because that'll be our last show before Christmas. We're going to be doing a couple of beers on that show. We're going to be doing the new Winter Ale from Fuller's.
Yeah, Fuller's Winter Ale, which they've released. And I think we're going to do one of their vintage ales as well.
We are going to do last year's Vintage Ale, yeah, so it's a Vintage Ale from 2015. It's
that sniggering by Clayton in the background means he's seen the picture.
Yeah,
I've just found it.
Yeah. Which is a bit of a tradition for the Beer O'Clock show, that we always review Fuller's Vintage for the end of year show. So
are we doing the 2015 or 2016?
We'll do 2015. We'll do last year's one.
So we'll do last year's one.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see how that's got on in the year. Clayton, thanks for joining us
Thanks for having me
on this week's show. Until next week, we can't really chink coffee cups, can we?
Yeah, of course we
why
can.
not? Yeah. Cheers. That's going to hurt some people's ears.